Thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited to present to you this webinar. I am Jasenia, and I'm here with Ashley from SurrogateFirst. We'll introduce ourselves in just one moment, but today we're going to be talking about the top 10 questions you should ask an agency. This is a really important webinar if you're thinking about starting your surrogacy journey, whether you're a surrogate or an intended parent. Finding the right agency is so important, and asking those questions and trying to find the right agency. And so before we get started, we just want to talk about a little bit about SurrogateFirst and why you should choose us. If you're thinking about becoming a surrogate, we have build your own compensation. So you can choose whatever compensation fits best for you and your family when you become a surrogate with us. We have a health and wellness program. We have experienced GC coordinators, a Surrogate Plus program, and a supportive community. We have so many things here at SurrogateFirst. And also for the intended parents, we have amazing programs for you as well. We have a match guarantee with 100% pre-qualified surrogates. So no match, no fee with our agency. We have, like I said before, an experienced staff of GCs and intended parents. So we're all experienced in the field of surrogacy. We have ethical values, support available 24/7, and transparent fees. And I am here with Ashley. And would you like to introduce yourself for our audience before we get into the webinar?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Ashley. I am the intake director at SurrogateFirst. I have been with the agency for about 6 years now from the very beginning. I'm also a 4-time surrogate, a surrogate advocate, a intended parent surrogacy coach, and then heavily involved with the surrogacy community and the ethical organizations that work to better the field for intended parents and surrogates. So that's a little bit about me. And I now live in Hawaii and I'm trying to start a farm. So I think that's everything about me.
Ashley, she is a jack of all trades. She has a lot of things going on, but she's really a big advocate for our community, and we're so excited to talk with you guys today. A little bit about me. My name is Jasenia. I'm a surrogacy educator with SurrogateFirst. I love to share my surrogacy journey previously on social media. I've been on different podcasts, media, and I really love to just educate others about surrogacy and make it more destigmatized. I really like to break down those barriers.
Nice. Awesome. So what are we going to cover today?
So today, sorry, I'm losing my breath today, guys. So today,
You are pregnant, so it's
yeah,
expected.
the third trimester is rough, y'all. It's rough. But we're going to be talking about the top 10 questions you should ask an agency. And like I said before, choosing an agency is a very serious decision, and asking those right questions is really important. Why do you think we should ask these questions as well, Ashley?
Other than the obvious that we are growing humans together, there's so many things that can go bad in surrogacy. There are no regulations, and anyone can open an agency. So just because someone has an agency, they have a nice website, they have some reviews, doesn't mean they're an ethical agency. And when you're going through this process, you have to be protected. There can be, escrows can go wrong, agencies can stop communication. Either party could stop communication, and you really need to have someone who's been in the field. They understand how the process works, how the finances work, even conflict resolution, like good communication, good education. Because as parents and surrogates, many people are coming into this without ever gone through it. And so you're going to need someone who's going to be able to take your hand and educate you so that you can make those decisions when it's time.
Right. I couldn't have said it better myself. That was an amazing explanation. So let's start off with the first question that we have for our webinar. So it is, how many surrogacies has the agency facilitated over the past year? Ashley, can you tell us why this question is important to ask?
It's just a question to understand. It kind of goes double layer, right? So how many, surrogacy journeys has an agency facilitated in the last year? You're going to understand, are they a very small agency? Are they a one-man crew? Are they a medium size? Are they large? The next question that goes with that is going to be, how many, journeys is each coordinator handling? Are they handling, is it a one-man crew and they're handling 5, 10, 20, 25? Is it medium size where maybe they're handling, 20 journeys per case manager? Or are they larger and could they be handling 35, 40, 55? I've seen, through my years of interviewing different case managers that have experience, like, how many cases did you previously have? And I've seen it go up to 55, 60. And so it's really important to understand how many cases is a agency running. So, what kind of size they are, what kind of support do they have, what kind of backing do they have in their business, right? How many surrogates are they able to, introduce to surrogacy, recruit, screen? And then how many parents do they have, right? Do they have a wait list for surrogates? Are you going to be able to match quickly if you're open to your preferences? So all of these questions kind of go hand in hand to make sure you're going to have a good experience. You've got the support you need. Your case managers, intake coordinators have the time they need to educate, support you through your journey. And then also, are they a large enough agency where you're going to be matched quickly? Are you going to be matched properly? You have a pick of parents, or, that they're going to find the right parents or surrogate for you.
Right. I really love that. Yeah. When I think of this question, I really just think about the same thing you said, is the agency's experience and their success rate, and like how many positive experiences they had, and can they really handle the amounts that they're dealing with, and can they give me that personalized care?
Okay. And then I heard you say success rates, right? So this is a big pet peeve of mine.
Right.
As an agency, we have no control over success rates. So if you're seeing people out there and they're claiming, I've got 100% success rate, we are not the clinics. We do not create the embryos. Where it's going to be important on the success rate is, what's the percentage of cases that break match, not due to like a medical reason, but how many are breaking in legal? How many are breaking before that or after that? That's going to tell you, is an agency doing the best job they can? No one is perfect, right? But are they doing their best job to find the right matches? Are they doing the best job to educate everyone before they go into legal? There's like, we have these questions, but there's so many details that go behind it. But be wary of that. Like, red flag, if someone's like, I got 100% success rate. Well, as an agency, I have no control over your embryos, the surrogate's uterus, the protocols, any of that stuff that makes a successful pregnancy. But we do have success with making a successful surrogacy journey.
Right, right. That was amazing information right there. So that kind of leads me into my next question. So number 2, how long does it usually take to start the matching process and to be matched?
A million years. It's gonna feel like that, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna feel like it's a million years. So on the surrogate side, that's a question you want to ask agencies, because you have to understand their protocols, right? I've seen agencies anywhere from, they do all the proper screening and then match, but I've also seen agencies that don't do the screening till they match a parent, which is not ethical. You need to have all of the background. So first part of that question, what does it take to be matched, right? So as a surrogate, you're going to need to have background checks, drug panels, psychological evaluations, medical records are gathered and reviewed, home evaluations, multiple interviews. And what does that process look like for a surrogate? I would say 6 to 8 weeks. Now, it can be much quicker if your records are easy to obtain, but sometimes, like for our military wives, the military has up to 30 business days to send us the CD with the records. Other times you might be on an IUD. And so it may take you removing your IUD and then 2 periods before you can start birth control and be ready for the clinic to go to the clinic. Are you weaning? That could delay things. So sometimes when surrogates are saying, hey, I had such a long screening process, it could be because you needed to get a pap smear and it took longer than expected, and OB clearance. There also may be things that pop up in your medical records, like you might have had tetrachardia, right? Where like you had some palpitations of your heart and in your pregnancy. And so you had to go to a specialist. Well, we have to gather those records, or we have to get a clearance from those records, because the number one goal is to keep our surrogate safe, which in return keeps the baby safe. So everyone wins if we take care of our surrogates and make sure. And that's a hard decision for some. On the parent side, the average match time in the US is about 12 months. do not be shied away from agencies who have a lower match time. Currently, we have like a 4 to 6 month match time. We have surrogates available. We're, sharing them with our parents already, but on average, it's about 12 months. And I've seen some larger agencies that are quoting like 15 to 18 months right now. So it can vary, but let's just say the average is 12 months. SurrogateFirst is closer to about 2 to 6 months. And agencies are all in between that.
Right, right. Yeah, there's timelines range from agency to agency, but getting at least an idea of where you are when you're signing up is really important. The next question I have is, what is the agency's recommended surrogate benefit package?
Oh, okay. That is a good question, right? Because every agency is different and everyone has their marketing, what would they call them? Their marketing campaigns, right? So we've all seen the $100,000 or $1 million to be a surrogate, right? At the end of the day, the parents pay that. So at our agency and many agencies, surrogates should be able to decide their amount that they would like for their base compensation. Now, the standard items on site of that, like maternity clothing, your lost wages, childcare, those are all pretty standard. But with base compensation, everyone should choose that. That being said, you can see those $100,000. And a lot of times what you're going to find out is, one, they don't have parents that are going to accept the $100,000. So you're waiting. I have a friend that's going through that right now. Or it's going to be 100,000, but you didn't realize it was all inclusive.
Right, right.
For the parents, asking this question of what is the standard compensation agreement, it should be part of the surrogate's profile. It should be, it's going to be several pages long. You need to know that when you pick a surrogate's profile, that you agree to her profile, to her personality, her request, your request, and her compensation, because you're not going to go to legal and negotiate her compensation down. It's usually, this is what she's asking for, and you're not going to be lowering that. So being aware of that when you ask an agency, what are you looking for? You want to make sure you understand when you're matching with a surrogate, you understand their medical history. You're not going to get their records, but you should have some kind of like update of, okay, this is how the pregnancies were. These were normal complications, because no pregnancy is perfect. But also you want to understand, what is their comp? How much is their lost wages? How much is their childcare? Are they partnered? Who's going to be watching the children? Because maybe it's friends or family. It might be more affordable. There might be other things like invasive procedures and her base comp. Like, does she have surrogate friendlier insurance? Do we need to review that? These are all part of the compensation package. And I see a lot of parents that get into trouble when that's not clearly done for transparency reasons. So IPs, for budgeting, understanding, going along with the profile, and for surrogates, you have the freedom to make those decisions. And if you see something on a compensation agreement, apologize, got some itchiness, allergies. But if you see something, you should be able to speak up and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. These are the things I need to change. And then your agency also has the right to say, you know what, we have a lot of parents that would be completely comfortable with that budget. We'd love to move forward with the screening. Or they may say, I actually don't have any parents at that high of a budget. Maybe I can recommend a good agency that's similar to us.
Right. I think it's important that the surrogates are getting fairly compensated, but it's a fair compensation for the intended parents as well. That's what I always try to do, to remind people, like, these parents are paying it. The agency's not paying it. They're not just pulling this money out of nowhere. Most of the time, these intended parents are working 2 jobs. They're getting money from their
refinancing homes, 401ks are cashed out, family is offering monies. No one pick surrogacy as their first resort. Most people think that they're going to be able to have their children unless they're in the, LGBTQ community. And if they are queer dads, they may know from the very beginning, I'm going to have my partner and I'm going to need a surrogate, but it still doesn't make it easier. And there's still college and diapers and formula. And I also understand, as surrogate, we're putting our lives at risk, complications with pregnancy. We could lose our fertility. We could have reactions to the hormones. So surrogates have to weigh that out themselves too, of like, what is valuable to me? What would allow me to help a family, but still protect my family and still make it worth it for the 2-year stretch that I'm trying to be a surrogate in?
Right. Well said. Well said. I will say, my next question, what is the agency's recommended qualifications?
Yeah. Most agencies, and the reason you're going to ask this is because most agencies follow the ASRM guidelines, right? The American Society of Reproductive Medicines. This is more so like for both, for the parents and the surrogate. You kind of want to understand, are there any other criteria? So here at Surrogate First, even though the ASRM guidelines say that it's, 21 to 45, we work with surrogates that are between the ages of 21 to 40. The ASRM guidelines say up to 3 C-sections. We prefer 2 C-sections. The reason behind that is that most times once you get to the third, there's usually thinning of the scar tissue. It makes it more dangerous for you, higher risk of any type of placenta abruptions. I'm not a medical provider, so I'm going to kill these words, but like placenta accreta, I think is what it's called. There's also concerns of more chances of fluid in the uterus. When they're checking for lining on the way to transfer. So there's just complications that we want to make sure that we minimize that. Again, anytime a surrogate goes to an IVF clinic for medical screening, the parents are paying that fee. So travel, lost wages, the clinics are usually several $1,000s. And so we want to maximize the success for everyone involved. We don't want to take mama away from her babies to go to a doctor's appointment when we could have done some checks before she went.
Right. I think it's really important to make sure your agency is abiding by the ASRM guidelines, just because there could be some shady agencies and you're like, this agency denied me, but this one accepted me. Just be very careful when looking at the requirements.
Yeah, and some agencies may have very strict criteria, right? Like I've seen agencies that require below a 28 BMI to be located in a certain area, only one, vaginal birth or 2 vaginal births, no C-sections or 1 C-section. So you may get disqualified from one agency for something that another agency is following the guidelines and still able to do. Also, everyone works with different clinics too. So you might have an agency that has a specific clinic that they match with. So they're going to have that particular clinic's requirements. But if you have history of preeclampsia, premature delivery previously, insulin use with gestational diabetes, and an agency is saying, hey, no problem, no worries about that, check the risks of those things, because you want to make sure that your agency is choosing people over profits. And so you need to meet with your OBGYN and check out your medical history and see if it's going to be a risk to you. Helping someone and getting a base compensation is not going to ever be worth your life or ever be worth you being injured, permanently because you wanted to do this.
Right. I really love that. So you definitely want to make sure that the agency is not putting profits over people. That your health is first, your family comes first, you come first. There's nothing like being healthy. That was awesome. My next question is there someone available to answer emergency questions 24/7? And what does that process look like?
Yeah, ask that question, because there are no perfect pregnancies and there are going to be emergencies, right? So for intended parents, you're going through this, and this may be your first pregnancy you're ever going through and your first surrogacy. There could be emergencies. Your surrogate could go into premature labor. She could have complications with a pregnancy. There could be anything that happens, and you need to be able to reach someone. So while your coordinators and your case managers, so say, at any agency, we never expect case managers to work 24/7. Is there a 1-800 number you can call? Is there an emergency line? Is there someone to be available to you? Are the higher ups, in your company available? Do they have an open, policy where clients can speak with them? So asking those questions is important on that side. On the surrogate side, we have so many things that are going on, right? You could have a mishap with medications and run out of medications. You need to get a hold of someone so they can help you get those ordered as soon as possible. You could have travel plans where your flight delays and you have to be to the clinic in the morning. Are you going to be able to get a hold of someone? Or what if something gets canceled, like the flights get canceled, or the IVF clinic cancels your transfer because they checked your, ultrasound the day before, the morning of, and something's going on. Also losses. IVF has a high percentage of SCHs, subchronic hematomas. Like you're going to start to bleed and panic and think this is the end of the pregnancy, but it's fairly common and it's not the end of the pregnancy. And you need to be able to talk to someone. And so while the clinics have their after hours and agencies do not take the place of legal advice, they do not take the place of medical advice. they still can be there to hold your hand and point you in the right direction. Myself, I got rear-ended at like 36 weeks with my first surrogacy, not with SurrogateFirst, not going to dog on the agency, but basically what happened was mom's expecting me to go into labor 4 weeks later. She's not prepared. She's in another state. I'm panicking. My labors are always fast and quick. I'm talking like 2 to 6 hours. And
Right.
so how is she going to get to me? We can't get a hold of people at the agency to help us, or the legal team, and the hospital's not respecting what we wanted. And so I end up giving birth to this baby. Mom's not there. And I sleep in a chair in the NICU because they don't even have a nursery for this baby and they won't let the baby stay with me, which was on the paperwork that I was supposed to have there, that they were supposed to respect. So because of that, I would say like in 6 years, I have never turned off my work phone. We have that protocol. And so we have a 1-800 number and it dials directly to me. And if I don't answer, it dials directly to our other founders, you know, and we want you to be able to get someone who can get into the system, solve the problem, help you, support you until your case manager wakes up or she is, you know, available, because your case manager still needs to have their family balance, but we never want you to be alone. And your other agencies should have some kind of plan and backup for emergencies. Now, if you're calling people at 12 o'clock at night because you just want to hang out and talk story, there's going to be some boundaries, right? With any agency, there's going to be boundaries, but you should have an option if there's an emergency to be able to get a hold of someone as soon as possible.
Right. It is really important. And babies come on their own time. Pregnancy is things happen at random times. I remember going to labor at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was surprised my intended mother answered the phone because we weren't expecting him to come 3 weeks early as well. But having that access, having that 1-800 number is so important. I can't explain this enough. So many things can go on with the hospital, lawyers, anything. So it's so important. Our next question we want to get into is your staff experienced intended parents, GCs, or fertility staff? Why is this a good thing to have at your agency?
Okay, so I'm going to be biased on this because this is my personal, and that's why it's one of my important questions. But technically, I don't know if they have to, right? Like,
Right.
I think there can be very great project managers that help the situation. But as a surrogate, I like to be able to work with a surrogate or an intended parent who knows the vulnerability and the transparency of a surrogacy, right? Like, it's this awkward married at first sight. We're going to have a baby together. We're still trying to like navigate our relationships as intended parent and surrogate. We're still trying to figure out all the unknowns on top of the stresses and everything else that's involved. And so there are losses, there are SCH scares, there are issues with anything. And so I personally want to understand, like, where's your heart in this? Where are you coming from? Are you going to be able to understand at my weakest moments or even at my best moments? Are you going to be able to celebrate with us and truly understand the feeling of an SCH, you know, an HCG test, right? Or a heartbeat confirmation or the first kicks, like, and what that means as a surrogate for intended parents. And as intended parents, are you going to understand what they're going through? And have you seen that before? Have you experienced that? So that's a personal one. It's not a diehard one. They don't have to be, but with us, that's our requirement because I want people to feel like they connect and they understand and they have that human community level over like, let me just type.
Right. And they truly have that experience. They could just relate to you a lot better. Talking to other people, other just women about surrogacy, they never truly understand it. Like another surrogate gets it. And the feeling that we get when we have the baby and we get that positive pregnancy test. Surrogates understand surrogates a lot better.
Yeah. And postpartum's tough, right? Postpartum's tough for intended parents. They've wanted this baby forever, and now they've got a newborn, and any newborn parent struggles and is exhausted, right? But they may not feel safe to talk to their friends about that because they may be met with, well, you paid for this, and why are you complaining? When you're talking with your agency and you might have struggles after birth as an intended parent, we're understanding that like it is okay. Like everyone can deal with that. Parents can deal with postpartum depression because their whole life has been rocked. No matter if you wanted this child for so long and you've dealt with losses or you've dealt with failed transfers, newborns are still tough, right? And so having someone understand that. And as surrogates, you know, even on the surrogate side, like being able to sit and talk, like I don't regret any of my journeys, but I still had mourning of the surrogacy ending itself. And my friends outside that have never dealt with surrogacy or infertility or have been part of the IVF world don't understand the same way someone who's been in this field understands.
Right. They'll never truly understand how it is unless they've been through it. Our next question that we have, question number 7, is how did your agency get started, or why was your agency started?
So I think we talked about it, right, a little before about my first experience as a surrogate. But let's talk about why that question is important. In a field where there is so much stress and there is so many ups and downs, and agencies look like little ducks, right, in the water where the water's just floating off their back in the pond, but their feet are going crazy under, you know, under the water. Same thing with us. Behind the scenes, we are running mad crazy. And you want to know, where is the heart of the agency, right? Surrogacy doesn't have a high profit margin. Surprise. For agencies. And so it's in those moments when we're at our weakest, what is the core, what is the culture of the agency itself? And I think that's important. And for, you know, for parents and surrogates to ask to ask your coordinators, because